Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is for Paws in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my TBR and I'm going to be giving you some recommendations for RomCom-a-thon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave the announcement video up above, but I am hosting a week of reading romance called RomCom-a-thon. And I'm hosting this with Michelle from Michelle's Library and Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots. I'll have them linked down below. They also have announcement videos. They also will be talking about their TBRs and recommendation videos in the coming week. So if you are struggling with your TBR, check them out below. We will all be talking about recommendations for 3 different prompts, so we'll have a mixture, a variety of things to talk about. So definitely recommend that you subscribe to their channels and check out their videos below. With that said, I'm going to start with my TBR, what I am going to be reading, and then I will be giving you recommendations for Friends to Lovers, Second Chance Romance, and a book with a POC main character. We have themed all of our prompts based on popular rom-com movies this time around. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but if you are interested, I will link the announcement video down below. There's also infographics and an Instagram that I'll link down below as well if you just want to take a look at those. But it is taking place from February 13th to February 19th, so that Monday to Sunday, surrounding Valentine's Day. We will be doing a group book, which is Do I Know You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This does fulfill several different prompts on our board, and you can double up, triple up, whatever you want. I'm only going to be using it for one prompt, but that's because I'm crazy and I'm trying to do 7 books in 7 days. So we'll see how that works. I will be vlogging it, so you will get to see how it works. With that, the first prompt is Second Chance Romance. Do I Know You will work for that prompt, but I will be reading Catch by Chris Bryant. This is a sapphic sports romance about a woman who is hired to be the offensive coordinator for an NFL football team, and then they hire a quarterback and come to find out she had a big crush, and I think it was more of a mutual crush on the quarterback's wife back in high school. So this is going to be a good time. RomCom-a-thon starts the day after the Super Bowl, so I have a feeling that I'm going to be kind of like on a football high, and because of that, this will probably be the first book that I read. The second prompt is Friends to Lovers. For that, I'm going to be reading The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. This is about a plus-size lifestyle influencer, like blogger, and she is testing out a new fitness app, and then she starts working with the CEO of the fitness app, and they kind of like work together. They're kind of friends, and then they kind of like fall for each other, but they shouldn't be, because like obviously like he's a vendor for her and she's writing an article for him. So there's gonna be this like, you know, mutual pining, tension, angst. We love that. The third prompt is an age gap romance. For this, I'm going to be reading Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert. I don't have a lot of age gap romances. The number one recommendation I can give you is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. That is a sapphic age gap romance and it's fantastic, but I didn't own a lot of them. So I tried to do some digging. Katie Robert is one of my favorite romance authors, and this is book 1 in a short series. Like I think there's 4 books in the series. They're all novellas. They're all on Scribd and on Hoopla, I think, as well. And this is about a woman who finds out that her fiance was cheating on her, and so she gets back the only way that she can, and that is by sleeping with his dad. And that sounds like a really good time. The next prompt is a book that features a wedding. For this, I'm going to be reading The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I read The Wedding Crasher last year and absolutely loved it, and I have no doubt that I'm going to love this one as well. This is about a woman who is a wedding planner, and she gets this opportunity of a lifetime to do this big project. Only problem is she has to collab with this man who actually was the best man at her own failed nuptials, where the groom left her at the altar, and this best man was the one that like encouraged the groom to run. So she hates him. This is also a hate to love romance, which is another prompt that I'll be talking about here in a second. So it would double up for that as well. But again, trying to do 7 and 7. We'll see how it works. The next prompt is a book with a dual POV. So basically the one main character has a chapter and then the other main character has a chapter, and they kind of go back and forth. For that one, I will be using the group book, which is Do I Know You? This is about a couple who go on their 5-year anniversary trip. They have lost their romance. They've lost their spark. And they go to the bar at this hotel or at this resort, and the bartender introduces them as if they have never met each other, and they just kind of go along with it. And so then for the entire vacation, they act like new lovers and like they had just met and they don't know each other and they just kind of like role play that. So I have a feeling this is gonna be good. The next prompt is a hate to love romance, and for that I'm going to be reading Finding Gene Kelly by Tori Jean. This is about a woman who, as a 5-year-old girl, married her neighbor who was 7 at the time, and you know, the childhood wedding and things like that, and then promptly divorces him because he threw a snowball at her or something. I don't know. Kids will be kids, right? And then like fast forward to adult life, he's still a pain in her butt, but then for some reason she has to find a fake boyfriend, and then so she asks him to be her fake boyfriend, even though he is the spawn of Satan, I believe is what they call him in the synopsis. And you know, she hates his guts. So, should be a fun time. Fake dating, one of my favorite tropes. Especially because hate to love is not necessarily my favorite trope. When you pair it with fake dating, though, it's gonna be phenomenal. Hopefully. Anyways. And then lastly, for a book with a main character who is a person of color, I'm going to be reading Sorry Bro by Talene Viscuni. This is actually going to be the group book for my own book club, which is Not Your Mom's Boozy Book Club that I run with Cal. So I'll link that announcement up above if you're interested in reading this along with us. This is a sapphic romance about a Armenian American woman who gets proposed to by her non-Armenian boyfriend in a like room full of drunk tech bros, and then she runs away. Get out of there. She then tries to have her mom help her set her up with another man so that she can kind of settle down. She wants to relearn her culture. She goes back to Armenia, and she meets this woman who is not mom approved, but starts out as her wing woman, but then sparks are gonna fly. I am very excited about this, even though this is an author that I have never read from before. I did not even know that this book existed until we were picking books for the book club, and the synopsis just grabbed me immediately. Okay, those are the books that I'm going to be reading this week. Now, if you are struggling with any of these prompts, I've got some recommendations for you. The first prompt that I'm going to be talking about is Friends to Lovers. This is my absolute favorite romance trope, and so I've got some good ones for you. Of course, we could not have a romance recommendation list without Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is probably one of my favorite romance books of all time. This is about a woman who is a grad student or a PhD student where she's also teaching at this university. She is friends with the security guard that's in her building. They have a fire drill. He rescues her from the elevator. They start a fake dating because like their little picture of him carrying her out of the elevator has gone viral, and they both could use the publicity. So he is also a former rugby player. It's a good time. These characters are amazing. Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey I think is an underrated book. I think it's fantastic. A lot of people don't like it as much as the first book in the series, which is Hook, It Happened One Summer. But for me, I really, really like this one. This is a book that you kind of do need to have read the first book in the series. With some romance series, you can read them as companions, but Fox and Hannah do kind of get to know each other in the first one, and then it really sells the Friends to Lovers in the second book. But they start out like texting each other, then she goes back to the city, and they try so hard. They're even like staying at the same house, so you have that like forced proximity, only one bed type of trope. There is 2 beds, there's a guest room, but like they really, really try to like push off their attraction for each other, and it doesn't work, and it's fantastic. It is my favorite of the 2 books in that series. If you like Christina Lauren's books, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating is a wonderful Friends to Lovers, also kind of like them having to stay in the same place kind of trope. Her apartment gets flooded, I think. It's been several years since I've read this book. But she ends up going to stay with him, and they set each other up on a bunch of dates, but then always end up going home together and like commiserating about how bad their respective separate dates were. And then obviously, like, you know, as time goes on, they start feeling, you know, they start realizing that, like, oh, we always go home together, let's just go on a date together. This one was a lot of fun. I read it several years ago, but it definitely has that like rom-com-y feel that Christine Lauren is really good at. If you are trying to do the 7 and 7 as well and you need something really quick, might I recommend the graphic novel Heartstopper. This is a YA book, but it definitely starts out as friends. So we have Nick and Charlie, and Nick is on the rugby team. Charlie decides to try out for the rugby team, and then they are like trying to help each other. and it's adorable. And then that's when Nick finds that he's like not as straight as he thought he was. This is a wonderful, wonderful graphic novel series, and the first one especially is this like friends to lovers transition. Lastly, we have Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein. This is a book that does not get a lot of hype on BookTube, even though it was a book of the month. But it is about this former gymnast who goes back to her hometown because she got injured and couldn't perform at the collegiate level anymore. So she goes back to her hometown and starts coaching this new protege that's going to like go to the Olympics. And she starts working with the other coach that was like already the head coach there. And they start off like really just friends and like colleagues because their main goal is to get this gymnast, you know, to the elite level. And it does deal with a lot of heavy issues. Obviously, there's a lot of trauma that comes with like ending your gymnastics career. There's a lot of trauma in gymnastics, let's be 100% honest. She's got to unpack a lot of that, but he's there doing that and supporting her and helping her along with that. And I thought this was a really, really good book. The next prompt I'm going to be talking about is Second Chance Romance, and this is one that I don't read a lot of, and it's not a prompt that is my favorite, but I do have a couple of options for you. We have Shipwrecked by Olivia Day. This is the third book in the like spoiler alert series. And this is another one of those novel series that like you do kind of need to read them in order. This is a second chance romance where the two couples or the two characters had a one night stand way back in the day, and then they find out that they are going to be co-leads on this other movie, and they're going to be spending a lot of time together. And so there's a lot of like this like angst of like, are you still into me, that kind of thing. And this was a really good time. It also deals with some really heavy issues. There is talk of adoption and a foster system, and one of the main characters was adopted, and so you get to see their family and like their like why they adopted and like that kind of thing, which for me is super personal, and I really liked that. And then also these characters are plus size. Olivia Day does fantastic plus size representation, like fantastic. As a plus size woman, I really, really enjoy these books, and it's wonderful to be able to see yourself and see a plus size or a bigger person as a lead, as a romantic lead, as someone who thinks you're attractive, thinks you're hot. It's really nice to see that in books, and Olivia Day is fantastic at it. Next up, another Christina Lauren book, and that is Something Wilder. This is their newest release, and I think that this one gets a lot of slack and like not as much attention because I don't think it's quite like as romancy as the other books that they tend to write. This is about a woman whose father owned a ranch back in the day, and then this ranch hand that helped on the ranch. And then I want to say it was like 10 or 15 years later, they meet back up. She is actually leading tours through the Moab canyons, and they kind of have this like Butch Cassidy type of like thrilling adventure trying to find a treasure hunt thing. And then they realize that there actually like is a treasure hunt. It's not this made up thing that like gets tickets. And it turns dark actually. Like it goes a lot farther than I think any of their books have ever gone before. But it was still a good time, and I still very much enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars. Lastly, a book that's really popular. It's probably my least favorite in the series so far, but that is the Bromance Book Club. This is the first book in a series, so you can, start here. And this is more of a Marriage on the Rocks trope than it is Second Chance, but I think if you're stretching it, it will work. And you know what? By all means, stretch the prompts. This is about a man who finds out that his wife, had been faking orgasms their entire marriage. And he gets really upset about it, and then she actually ends up leaving, and he is trying everything to get her back. And by everything, I do mean joining a book club where the men read romance novels to try to get in women's head and try to figure out what women want. And it's quite entertaining, for sure. Marriage on the Rocks is, by far my least favorite trope in romance, other than, Secret Baby. So that's the only reason why I didn't like this book as much. I do think that the characters were fantastic. I think the writing is great. And it's a book that I would recommend if that's not your least favorite trope. Lastly, a book with a POC main character. I have several that I've already talked about. First off, the ones that are on my TBR. Sorry, Bro, The Fastest Way to Fall, and The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. All three of these have POC main characters. Also, The Wedding Crasher, which is her other book, is fantastic. Highly recommend. She also has an indie series. I haven't read it yet, but they probably will also have POC main characters. Talia Hibbert writes all of her books have POC main characters. If you haven't read The Brown Sisters, that is by far her best series. Also, there is a readathon happening, or a read-along happening, and it's hosted by Victoria over at What Victoria Read. I think she has a few other co-hosts as well. February, they are reading Danny Brown, but you could read both. They both could fit under multiple prompts. So that's an option. She also has a few indie series. The Ravenswood series is my favorite trilogy. That's not like the Brown Sisters from her. This has a lot of mental health rap, a lot of other diversity rap as well. In this one, the main character is autistic. In one of the books, I think it's the third one in the book, the male love interest is actually demisexual, which is not a representation that you see very often. Talia is fantastic at putting a lot of different types of representation into the books. She's phenomenal. We also have Claire Kahn. She wrote Let's Talk About Love, I think is what it's called. Covers right there, which I read last year, the year before. And then she also has The Romantic Agenda, which I haven't read yet, but she has a lot of characters that are on the ACE spectrum as well, so some really good diversity there. If you are also on a football high and you would like some sports football romances to bring you down after the Super Bowl, the day before RomCom-a-thon, Alexa Martin has the Playbook series. So we have Intercepted, Fumbled, Snapped, and Blitzed. And they kind of all take place in the same universe with different players and their love interest, and this is a fun series. And then also Adriana Herrera is another author that is super popular. I've only read her Christmas romances, and then another one called Finding Joy, which is a Friends to Lovers, which would also work as well. Just now realizing that. She has a lot of books and a lot of series that are all like romance based, and she's a very, very popular author. I just have not read a ton from her as well. All right. That is a lot of recommendations for you. Hopefully that helps you out. Let me know down in the comments below if you are participating in RomCom-a-thon, and if you have any recommendations for any one of these 3 prompts. And like I said, Michelle and Aoife will be posting their TBRs and some recommendation videos with other prompts sometime this week. We're all doing them on different days, but check them out below. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!